You're about to see a working day rolled into a quarter of an hour. A TV report produced from scratch and for real. The job begins early. Now.
Ed?
Yeah.
Can we have words, please, Ed?
Here we go. The Ogaden Wall, Afghanistan?
No, it's the Thames Barrier, Ed.
Lord.
You know where that is?
I'm afraid I do. What on earth have we got to say that's new about the Thames Barrier?
It's a progress report.
The news editor picks the stories. The reporter has to assemble them. And if he sounds a little less than enthusiastic, well, he's only human. This story has been done before, many times before.
The Thames Barrier is a huge construction across the mouth of the Thames at Woolwich, and it's designed deliberately to stop London flooding.
It's taken 8 years to look like this, but illustrating it yet again is still going to need work. Checking old newspaper cuttings, films we've made in the past, and then fixing experts to talk to.
Hello, Greater London Council. I wonder if you could put me through to your Thames Barrier boffins.
It may sound easy to locate the right person to say the right things at the right time, but it isn't always. You can end up wasting precious hours just persuading them to leave their offices. The programme we're all working on is Thames News. It goes out daily in the London area. This is the producer. Between now and 6 o'clock, he must decide the shape of the final programme.
I think you've got some new copy there.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It looks pretty good.
On Roger Parry's...
In the film library, the efforts of previous barrier reports flash by. Do we need to show what it looked like a year ago or two? On this occasion, we may not. There probably won't be
I don't think it's all that
time.
relevant, just aerial shots as it was, because it won't cut in very well. I think we'll leave it at that for the moment and shoot it fresh. It's going to be a nuisance, but thanks anyway for your help.
Fine.
And now, only the programme's senior editorial team to give the go-ahead to our story and all the others at their daily planning conference.
Right, Ken. 25-minute programme, full strength of reporters.
As for us, the homework's done. The facts have been checked, the old films reviewed, and we've arranged 3 people to interview down on location at the Barrier.
So we're on our way now to meet the people who will actually make it all possible, the ENG crew.
Incidentally, ENG stands for Electronic News Gathering, a fancy name for the latest video camera and sound equipment and all manner of splendid technical gadgetry. It records on cassettes and it plays back instantly.
What are we off to today?
We leave the Thames Barrier, will it?
Thames Barrier.
Again?
Again.
Good one. Here we go.
Okay. The other thing is this Ed Boyle piece on the barrier.
That's a sort of progress report we're doing, isn't it, on the barrier?
Yeah, it's got good points and it's got bad points, and I'm a bit worried about it. It's got great potential. It's a very important story. It's the biggest engineering project in Europe, and it's always good pictures because it looks quite dramatic. Problem with it is that we're not really telling anybody very much new.
But while they talk, we've been travelling. It's 11:30 now, we've arrived. So on with the hard hats for a pre-interview chat with the first of our experts. This story is a progress report, but the problem with the barrier is that there hasn't been enough progress. Since building began, it's been dogged by problems, hold-ups and delays. Ray Horner, the man from the Greater London Council, can tell our viewers why London needs the barrier so urgently.
Ray Horner, the ooze last night rose 16 feet and flooded parts of York. Is London entirely safe?
This upland flow doesn't put much of London at risk. It really only affects the upper parts of the Thames area.
So why have a barrier? Why have a barrier?
You see,
that's costing
I have to push for the information that our viewers want. In this case, just why the Thames Barrier is worth around £500 million of the public's hard-earned money.
The levels of the water are increasing by something like 2.5 feet a century, creeping up steadily. This has been going on for thousands of years, and it's not going to stop overnight.
1 o'clock now, other people call it lunchtime, but not back at base.
Some of the gates, perhaps.
The producer is briefing the graphic artist for the extra illustrations we'll need in tonight's programme. While back in Woolwich, our story seems to be taking almost as long as building the barrier itself. It's pouring with rain, and electronic cameras don't like getting wet. We've had one of those fiendish, time-consuming technical problems.
What time have you got to be away?
No one likes waiting in the rain, and our next guest, Paul O'Farrell, is damp and in a hurry. Paul is a journalist for Construction News, and he's come to tell us why work on the barrier has been delayed. With the camera back in action, we'll record his views just as soon as we pick the best position. For in television, the pictures are every bit as important as the words.
We could do against the main part there.
Do it against the control tower, just for variety.
Hello, Rita. Nothing.
Rita Carter is one of the Thames News presenters, a familiar face to Londoners.
Big force.
Another is Andrew Gardner, being briefed here by the programme's editor.
And then we've also got this, the barrier story. Now that one, on a strong day like today, may have to go.
Might, yes.
There's nothing fixed about a news programme. A good idea at dawn can be overtaken by other, more pressing events by lunchtime. And the barrier progress report already seems to be slipping slowly but surely down the editor's charts.
Into a fine pot.
The barrier's not going to go away, is it?
No.
The barrier brigade battles on regardless, though. The rain hasn't stopped, and the crew can't afford to. We need more pictures to convey the message, to show the size of the barrier, and to explain better than words ever can how big the river is here and how dangerous it could be if it overflowed. But what a day to pick to do it.
Lovely weather.
And still one more interview to record, this time with a union official, Hugh Barr. For in the past, the barrier has been dogged by industrial dispute and delay.
Now soaked.
Soaked, but done. A raw story is at last on tape, on its way back to a busy newsroom, where some stories are already further advanced and in print. For us, though, the job is far from done. In the editing room back at base, reporter and tape editor plough through the pictures, looking and listening for the words that matter. Ray Horner, remember, spoke at length about the dangers of a flood. Now we need a phrase or two from him that sums it all up.
£450 million.
Yeah, let's stop it there. Let's stop it there. The point is that he's an expert and he does tend to go on and on and on about his subject, and I think this is the essential question. What is the reason for the Thames barrier?
This is a long-term thing because of the settlement of southeastern England. It's got to be built sooner or later. The levels of the water are increasing by something like 2.5 feet a century, creeping up steadily. This has been going on for thousands of years, and it's not going to stop overnight. So that we have got to build a structure which will keep these exceptional surge tides out.
Out. Lovely. Out. You can't get a better out than out. And out, incidentally, in our terms, means at the end of the section that we're going to use. In this particular section, he said really all we want him to say. He's explained why you need a Thames barrier. He's explained why the flood tides are rising.
In 20 seconds.
In 20 scintillating seconds.
So, if we could come to promo rehearsal in 5.
Elsewhere, the pace is hotting up as transmission time approaches. The programme makers have started their studio rehearsal.
Death crash inquiry heard about the warning but failed.
Reports too on why heroin addiction is growing despite huge seizures by customs, and we'll talk to Jean Waddle about her new life in Basingstoke.
Yeah, Rita, is it not Waddell rather than Waddle?
Waddell, yes.
Waddell, thank you very much.
That's roughly the bit we want. He's the fellow from Construction News, and he's talking about the errors that have been made since they started the barrier. So if we come in on the answer to my question, have mistakes been made, or would they have built it this way if they were starting again today? And the answer is, I very much doubt it.
We've got a sharp, clear statement there from Paul O'Farrell, but we do have a problem. 3 interviews, 2 minutes to tell the tale, and something has to give. Sadly, it's Hugh Barr, the union man. The story can survive without his words, and my script will try and include the main points he made. It may sound brutal, but it has to be done.
Let's cut him out. What I suggest you do is have a look at the pictures of the barrier. But if you have a bash at that, I could get down to some business with actually writing some words to fit in the gaps.
Total seizures of heroin last year were nearly 87 kilograms, more than double the record sorry.
Whoops, the tension of rehearsal. Looking down the lens of a studio camera, reading the words of the script projected upon it. And the art, of course, is to look as though you're not reading it at all. This lady has the script typed out on a long, thin roll. She feeds it into her machine, and hey presto, there it is, before your very eyes.
optimism at Queen's Club. Here's Jerry Harrison.
But Sequence 13 Barrier hasn't got that far yet. The pictures and interviews may be cut, but what's required now are the words to fill the gaps and make sense of it all at speed. We're calling the story inevitably Barrier. It's got a sequence number, believe it or not, of 13, which is lucky for some, but we don't worry about numbers in television. Right. The risk of the capital city flooding is still real. Experts say that southern Britain is sinking and the Thames is rising and a disastrous deluge could inundate.
Alan, through you, sequence 13, Barrier. Barrier's got to move down the running order. Sequence 17 it becomes, please. Barrier becomes sequence 17.
Okay, so let's transpose Barrier to sequence 17.
The tide of events to stem this raging river has flowed slow as the water runs in. There's an enormous temptation on these occasions to use far too many adjectives. I mean, flood tides kind of lend themselves to big words, which sometimes are over-dramatic given the sense of the story, but that's something I have to guard against. And the Barrier, 8 years in the building, will seek to stem the remorseless flow of...
That doesn't work.
6 minutes on it, Juliet.
Right.
There isn't time for anything else. That's it. Ed Boyle, Thames News on the Barrier. That's where we end. That's where we began, really.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11.
It's too late to change it now. In a few seconds, we'll be on air.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Time.
Yep.
Cut and cue.
Police are still searching for two missing
NX2 next.
schoolboys. It's now over 24 hours.
NX2 roll.
Cut and cue.
Jean Waddell, the church worker who spent last Christmas in the Iranian jail, has begun a new mission.
By now, I'm well aware that the Barrier story is at risk. There are too many other good items in the programme, so it's all in the lap of the producer and the clock.
Cut and cue.
The inquiry inspector, Major Charles Rose, appealed to
And
anyone who
32
had-
next.
A whole day's effort at stake now. All that work.
We were watching yesterday, you remember, were dying out as they approached, and in fact they did die out.
Gave very little as they came through early in the morning, and now they've amalgamated with this brick wall of mild air here. It's a band of cloud that will give a lot of snow in the southwest.
I'm afraid Barrier's got to go. Please drop Barrier, please. Sequence 17, Barrier is out.
Well, today's film shows...
Sorry about that, Ed. It's been a heavy day, obviously.
22
Into
hours.
office. And that's it for tonight. From Rita, from me, and of course from everyone on the news team. Good night to you.
2, 1, 0.
Well done, everybody. Hard luck, Ed.
Right. Another day is over.
Not one of the best.
Not one of the worst, though.
No, true.
Night, everyone.
Hello, Rita.